So, hi guys, my name is Waleed OMD Wala, and today I have very special guest, Guij. Did I pronounce correct, sir?
Yes.
Guij. Okay. Thank you for joining the podcast and accepting my invitation. So, how's your health? Because I approached you like 1 month in December. So, what's your health now?
My health is good. I had a hip replacement surgery about a month ago, but it's recovering nicely.
Okay, that's fine. That's great. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience and me?
Yes. So my name is Greg Martin. I grew up in Holbrook, Massachusetts, which is near Boston. I was sort of an all-star performer in academics, sports, and leadership all through high school, then on through West Point, Army Ranger School, and then as an officer in the Army. I found out later I had a condition called hyperthymia, which is a near continuous level of low grade mania, which gave me extra energy, drive, enthusiasm, positivity that elevated and lifted my performance. And this hyperthymia was part of having a bipolar brain and living on the bipolar spectrum. A lot of things people don't realize is that early on, when you have a bipolar brain and live on the spectrum, it generally helps you to perform better, to rise to higher heights. It's only when the condition gets too high that it can bring you tumbling down.
Okay, okay. And how is like your education? Which subjects you are done your graduation, college, and what subject are you interested in most when you are kid?
So at West Point, we took a mix of engineering and liberal arts. So it was a well rounded education. I was very good at both, but I liked the liberal arts best, like history, politics, psychology. That's what I really enjoyed the most. And then later, some years later, I went to graduate school. The Army paid for me to go to graduate school at MIT, and they gave me the mission to get one master's degree in engineering. And I came out of the experience with two masters and a PhD. That was very unusual behavior that really was a clear flag of a bipolar brain. I mean, that just was not normal to go through that experience and come out with such a level of achievement. And it was largely because of the living on the bipolar spectrum and the boost and the enhancement that the bipolar spectrum gave me in my performance. Because what the bipolar did is it produced and distributed excess amounts of powerful chemicals like dopamine and endorphins, which raised my performance.
Okay, and at which age you diagnosed with bipolar?
I was not diagnosed until age 58 in 2014. That was the first time I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I had bipolar disorder for many years before that, but it was undiagnosed, untreated, unknown, unrecognized.
Okay, and like in bipolar problem, what's patient like facing in that disease? Like there's a change in attitude or mind or behaviors. Like anything you can explain?
Yeah, bipolar disorder is a mood disorder where the moods fluctuate between mania, which is, very high, very energetic, grandiosity, religiosity, reckless, spending lots of money, risk taking, not sleeping. So that's kind of the manic side. And then you might settle into a sort of a quote normal side for a while, and then you'll fall into depression. Depression is lack of energy, lack of interest, isolated, indecisive, confused, and you'll be in depression for a while. And then back up into mania. And so it's a fluctuating pattern of mood. This can go on for, these different mood cycles can go for days, weeks, months. In my case, I was actually depressed and psychotic for 2 years. And so it's a really brutal, deadly brain disease.
Okay, and did you recover from that bipolar disorder?
Well, you never really recover in the past tense. You always have bipolar disorder. It's a chronic disease like diabetes or cancer. So you have it. It doesn't go away. You have to manage it, through medication, therapy, healthy living, and so forth. And so I'm doing pretty good on my recovery journey, but it's never over.
Okay, okay. Uh, uh, let's then you joined army, like American Army, after your studies.
Say that again, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Uh,
hear you. I didn't understand something about the American Army.
After you graduation from college or university, then what you done, like your job or uh, what kind of stuff you done after that graduation?
Okay. So my first job after graduation from West Point is I went to Army Ranger School, which is a commando course um, for small unit tactics and special operations. Then I went to Germany during the Cold War, and I was a platoon leader of combat engineers. And we had a mission along the East German border where the Soviet Union had a huge army, and we defended, the Americans and NATO defended the border. And so I was in charge of engineers. So we put in obstacles, tank ditches, defensive fighting positions, and we basically enhanced and strengthened and thickened the ability of the American armor and infantry and artillery to fight battles against the Russians. And so that's what I did during training for the war. And then during when we weren't out in the field training, we did construction projects for the American military, for the German civilians, for other NATO countries. We would go in and build schools and health clinics and drill wells and things like that to keep us sharp and well practiced on construction skills.
Okay, very nice. So the question is, can you walk us through your progression and key roles during your 20-year career in the U.S. Army?
I would say key roles were first, I was a platoon leader in charge of about 30 soldiers. Then I was a company commander in charge of about 200. And then eventually I became a battalion commander in charge of 500 soldiers, and then a brigade commander in combat of about 10,000 soldiers. And then I commanded Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which had about 30,000 soldiers. And then I commanded the National Defense University, the Army War College, the Army Engineer School. So I had a mix of, field command assignments of combat troops and being in charge of large, complex educational institutions.
Okay, and you are major, like your role in the army, like major or like general. I think there's is a hierarchies in the role in the army, like.
Yeah, so there's different ranks. So I came in as a second lieutenant, and then I worked to first lieutenant, then to captain, then to major, colonel, colonel, then one-star general, then two retired.
Okay, and in which countries you have done operation in the 20 years of your career?
In which, what did you say?
Countries, in which countries you have done operations like for army?
Oh, in which countries? I would say
Any 2 years of your
I would say
career?
first of all, the my first 5 or 6 years as a lieutenant and a captain, we were in the Cold War and we conducted defensive operations against the Soviet Union for about 5 years. Then later in 1992, 93, I was a major and I deployed to Honduras in Central America. And we conducted operations the region of Central America that included Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and some other countries down there where we were helping countries that were our friends and working to, to deter countries that were our enemies. Then I went to Kuwait in 2002, and we deployed from Germany to Kuwait, and we trained in Kuwait, and then we got ready to attack Iraq. And I spent a year of combat operations inside of Iraq, commanding about 10,000 soldiers in my brigade. And we did all kinds of operations. And then later, I went back and I was a deputy commander of 3rd U.S. Army in Kuwait, and so those were my deployments.
Okay, okay. uh, and the next question is: Have how have you experienced leading complex military operation and organization shaped your approach to leadership and management?
Well, no matter how complex the organization or the operation is, you have to be able to understand it and break it down into its basic, most simple parts. You have to be able to, see and understand and visualize the terrain. You must be able to develop a clear, concise, informative mission statement that basically tells you who, what, why, when, where, and how. And so then you develop your mission statement, and you war game it, and you bounce it off of everybody in the command, and you refine it. And then when you get buy-in from everybody on the mission statement, then you start pushing the mission statement down lower mission levels of the chain of command. And then you start practicing in labs, computer simulators, and you start practicing the mission against a hypothetical enemy, and you practice it over and over again. And then you develop what you need for operations, for training, for logistics, for maintenance, for communications, for medical, for engineering, for artillery, and so forth. And then you put together a cohesive, well developed, well synchronized plan of attack.
Okay. Uh, the next question is strategic leadership education. Has someone who has both taught and studied strategic leadership, what do you believe are the essential qualities of effective leaders in today's world?
That's a great question. I think that the effective qualities of an effective leader are, number one, people have to be, very intelligent and smart and be able to figure out complex problems. So I think that's number one. Number two, they have to really care deeply about the welfare and the morale of their people, because you don't want the people to be wasted or to be injured or to be killed unnecessarily. So, real care for the people. Third, the leader must always do the right thing. The leader must have character, integrity, and be completely trustworthy and completely selfless, in that they put the mission and the people ahead of themselves. And then finally, I think it's really important that the leader have a sense of humor, and that the leader it doesn't isn't so serious that he browbeats and intimidates everybody into fear. They should be able to laugh a little bit, joke a little bit now and then, as appropriate, and make it kind of a enjoyable experience as much as possible.
Okay. Okay. The next question is about the institutional change and organizational developments. Your doctoral dissertation focused on organizational change within the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. What were some of the key findings or insight from your research?
Great question. So the environment in which the Corps of Engineers operated began to change in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. It started to change in big ways. There was a strong environmental movement. More and more of the engineer troops were in the Guard and the reserves. So you couldn't just send active duty troops into the theater of operation to build things. And then third, there were significant monetary constraints on the ability to build things overseas in a uh, um, theater of operations. So what the Corps of Engineers did is they very cleverly and smartly, with strategic leadership, they said, okay, these are the things that the big army and the Department of Defense and the country care about. So we're going to get on board and start delivering these services. So they got heavily on board with the environmental movement, and the Corps of Engineers became the leader in the entire United States on environmental remediation, uh, uh, restoration of the environment, and so forth. So that was the first big one. The second big one is that the Corps of Engineers couldn't just send, like in World War II, they sent hundreds of thousands of engineers into the theater of operation to build things, logistics, ports, facilities, but they couldn't do that. So they had to use a way to use civilian contracts and use contract money in order to build the things. So you had contractors, civilian building companies actually building most of the stuff that would have in like World War II been built by American troops. Then the third thing that the engineers did was the Army, the US Army in the 1980s and 90s became a very high speed, mechanized, armored combat force that specialized in desert warfare. And so, in order to be effective in high speed desert warfare, the armor and the infantry needed engineer equipment that was fast, that mobile, and could keep up with them on the battlefield. So the engineers developed high speed bulldozers, high speed armored earth movers that could keep up with tanks and provide the types of tank ditches, fighting positions, clearing of routes, clearing of obstacles, just what the armor and the infantry needed. So those three things, the environment, the using civilian contract money, and then fourthly, high-speed engineer equipment on the battlefield, those marked a transformation of the Corps of Engineers that was very well received by the bigger US Army and the country.
Okay. And on the side note, what's your age now?
My age is 67.
Okay. And how many years you serve U.S. Army?
36.
Okay. And you are live in Florida currently?
Yes, Florida.
Okay. 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 The next question is about a transition to advocacy, and it will be like what motivated you to transition from a distinct military career to become a mental health advocate?
What motivated me was that I went through a terrible, terrible experience that almost cost me my marriage, my family, It did cost me my career, my health. It could have put me into homelessness, addiction, jail, death. And so once I started recovering, once I got on the right medication, I said, if I get recovered enough, I'm going to tell my story and share it so that other people can benefit from my experience. They can learn from my lessons learned and apply these things to their lives and have a better life themselves. So I did. I started writing the book a few years ago, and I wrote the book. That took about a year. Then I started writing. I published about 20 articles. I've probably given about 100 talks. And so the way I developed my mission statement, because you have to have a mission statement in life. And my mission is sharing my bipolar story to help stop the stigma, promote recovery, and save lives. So that's what I do. And I do it to help people and save them from the death and the destruction of bipolar disorder.
Okay. Um, Educational background. You hold multiple advanced degrees from prestigious institutions. How have your academic pursuit informed your professional journey and personal development?
Well, I think that the schools that I went to, West Point, MIT, Army War College, Navy War College, they were very good at helping teach me how to think. So they didn't necessarily give me the answers, but they taught me how to think about complex issues and problems so that I could then apply my thinking skills on problems and come up with good smartest thing, the ability to learn how to think about solving complex problems.
Okay. Uh, the next question is balancing work and education. Pursuing advanced degrees while serving in the military must have been challenging. How did you manage the balance between your professional responsibilities and academic pursuit?
Um, so when the Army sent me to graduate school at MIT, it's a wonderful program the Army has. They sent me for 2 years, and my only job was to go to grad school and get the advanced degrees. So I didn't have like a day job. I just full time, 24 hours a day, I was a student. And that made it um, much better because I didn't have to have a military job that was competing with my study time. The biggest thing was keeping a balance with my family and children, who were three little kids. Then, when I finished grad school at MIT, I came out of it with two masters in all but dissertation for my doctorate. Then I went to a regular Army job. That was very difficult to balance the regular Army job for the next 2 or 3 years with the graduate school. And so what I had to do was just, I got up early in the morning and I worked on my MIT work, my PhD, and then I would eat breakfast, go to work. I'd work all day at my Army job. And at 5 or 6 o'clock, I'd come home and then I'd play with the kids for a little while. And then boom, I'd get right into the MIT work and I'd work on it till, midnight, 1 in the morning. And then I didn't need much sleep because I had a hyperthymic personality. So that was an advantage. And then I did that year after year until I got it done.
Okay. The next question is teaching and mentorship. You have served as instructor and course director at various military institutions. What aspects of teaching and mentorship do you find most fulfilling?
Um, I loved the teaching assignments, and I got to teach at West Point and I got to teach at the Army War College. And what I loved about it is that you had the students who were eager and willing to learn and who would read the material and come in with good questions. And then my job was to guide. I wouldn't teach them, facts and specifics. but I would have an overarching question of the day, and then that would focus and develop the the uh, the conversation and the discussion and the dialogue, and get the group going and having a discussion and take it to the next level. That was how I did it, and I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot as a teacher.
Okay. Uh, Impact of military experience. In what ways do you believe your military experience has influenced your advocacy work in mental health?
Well, I think my military experience has influenced it a lot because most of my severe mental health experience was when I was in the military. So it went hand in hand. Military service, mental illness went hand in hand. So the two reinforced and helped me understand the other. Then when I left the military and my mental health got worse, I went from bad to worse. I think the military experience um, gave me a certain number of friends that were very faithful, and they stuck with me and helped me to get better. And I think it gave me, the military training gave me perseverance and willpower to keep fighting, to keep trying, and to never give up.
Okay. Uh, how do you integrate your extensive military background with your mission to raise awareness about mental health issues?
Say that again.
Uh, it's about combining military and mental health advocacy. Like, how do you integrate your extensive military background with your mission to raise awareness about mental health issues?
Oh, good. So it's really very easy. I have a high standing position in society because I'm a general, and that gives me a voice, a platform, a position to stand on where people pay attention to me and what I say. So that military background and rank really helps. The second piece is I have a lot of background on how to organize things, on how to speak publicly, how to get people motivated, how to build teams, and how to build coalitions to do a job. And so my military background helps me a lot in that regard. And then it just, my public speaking is very good that in that I learned how to speak and motivate people as I talk.
Okay. Personality development and growth. Reflecting on your diverse experiences, both professionally and personally, what have been some of the most significant lessons you have learned along the way?
Well, the biggest thing is figure out something that you really like to do, that you love to do, that you're passionate about doing. And so for me, that was the military. I loved it. And now it's mental health advocacy. I love it. And so find something that you're passionate about, and then set your mind to doing it, and then do it with all your heart, all your energy, all your passion, and do the best you can. And that's what I'm doing. I mean, every day, this is what I do, is some type of mental health advocacy. And I just do the best I can, and I love it.
Okay. And the last question is advice for aspiring leaders. And based on your journey from military service to advocacy and education, what advice would you have to give to individuals aspiring to leadership roles or seeking to make meaningful impact in their communities?
I would say know what it is you want to do, to accomplish, and why. Material, read about it so that you get informed, then get involved with groups and people who are like minded and who really want to make a difference in your field, and then become a part of those networks. become part of those networks of people who are motivated to do what you want to do, and then start working with them, and then get busy, roll up your sleeves, get involved, and make a difference.
Okay, very nice. My question is complete, and thank you for joining the podcast. It will be like very fruitful for me to learn from you, and you have whole experience. And any remarks about this podcast? Any suggestions or reviews?
I thought you did a terrific job. You clearly did very detailed research. You asked great questions. It was really smart. I think it will benefit the listeners greatly in Pakistan and wherever else is listened to. I did have a question. When will the link be available to put out on social media?
It will be live. It will be my Facebook profile. You can go and check out. It will be live on YouTube and Facebook.
Would you be able to send it to me?
Yes, I will send you. Okay, no problem.
Okay. And then where in Pakistan are you located?
I'm in the Punjab province and Faisalabad city, and then it is like Tehsil, we call district Faisalabad, and then this short city like Jamwala. Okay, I'm from that.
How does your podcast does it go all over Pakistan and the world?
This podcast, yes, yes, it will be live on Facebook and YouTube.
How did you find out about me?
My fellow podcaster Arsalan Ahmed podcast with you. So I just found that on their podcast, and then I quickly add you as a friend request. I think then I will message to you for the podcast invitation. And
Awesome.
it and this is the 41st number for podcast of mine. So yeah.
Okay, super.
So, so,
Well,
uh, so it, I have a lot of questions, but I asked for you for 30 minutes. So because you have a lot of experience in military, in education, in the leadership. So inshallah, in future I will do like a second podcast with you if you allow. Whatever date we will fix. So you have a diverse experience and education, all that. So it's will happy for me to learn a lot from you. Yeah.
well, Waleed, I would love to do a second show, and it would be a great honor. And I really thank you.
Thank you, thank you. If you ever come in Pakistan, contact me. So I will host you, inshallah, if I am available in Pakistan. So yeah,
Okay, thank you, sir.
thank you. Okay, thank you for joining.
All right,
Okay.
bye.